I fought the judicial system for 12 years. I took my case all the way up to the Ninth Circuit, to the Department of Justice. And a judge at that level after 12 years heard my case and said, you ought to be granted permanent residency.
Today, we're joined by Max and Claudia Zaker, partners in life and business. They've built successful companies, raised a family, and dedicated their careers to creating opportunities for others.
I came to America knowing that I wasn't entitled to anything. Me was the dream. All I wanted was just an opportunity, just for somebody to give me a shot. Just like when I asked Claudia to marry me, she said yes. She gave me a shot. Mathematically, our marriage should not have worked because we were going against all odds. Cultural differences, age differences.
I applied for a job. I walked in and Max was part of the panel. He was my boss 3 years. I gave my notice that I was going to join the academy. He said, now that you're going to be leaving, I can properly ask you on a proper date. That's kind of how journey began.
You built a successful business, okay, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we've been married for 23 years and we still love each other. What does it look like when you take these two amazing gifts and then you mush them together? And that's really the question we get asked most often.
Today, we're joined by Max and Claudia Zaker, entrepreneurs, industry leaders, founding partners of Realty of America, and partners in life and business. For Max's journey immigrating to the United States to Claudia's transition from deputy sheriff to real estate leader, they've built successful companies, raised a family, and dedicated their careers to creating opportunities for others. We're excited to hear their story and explore what it truly means to be built together. I'm Adriana Castillo.
And I'm Roberto Castillo. And this is Built Together. Welcome, Claudia and Max.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for having us. I love that intro.
First off, Max, happy Father's Day.
And thank you very much. And to you as well, my friend. I spent my Father's Day watching the infamous football game in LA. So it was a special Father's Day for me.
I saw that. The seats were amazing, and it looked like an amazing time out there.
Yeah, Claudia didn't tell me what she paid for them, but we'll just leave it at that.
we never asked those questions. You just go for the experience, and that's what it was.
That's right. Just show up. But it was an amazing day spending it with her and our daughter Jasmine. So it just made it that much more special.
What season are you guys in right now? What is going on for you guys? What are you guys focused on at the moment?
Wow. We're in that. That's a great question because we've been having so many conversations on what's next for us, right? Especially with, I'm sure you probably don't know the age gap, but there is an age gap between us. And so Max is at a different season of his life. And, I still have a little bit more energy to go. So we've been having those discussions on what does that look like for us? What is that next, transition? Because we've been in the go mode, building mode for so long.
Yeah.
That now just even discussing to slow down, that in and of itself is a big task.
Yeah. Well, Adriana and I talk about slowing down all the time, and then we have a new business left and right that pops up that we just, all right, well, let's run at this one. Let's figure this out. So very, very familiar.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know if I can quite describe the season that I'm in, but I can put it this way that, now I'm thinking, how can I have the most impact, in the least amount of time? And that's just the reality of life. I mean, I'm no longer in my 30s and 40s. I love where I'm at. I'm loving the season that I'm in. But the question is, how do I have the biggest impact?
Yeah.
In the least amount of time, understanding that, my time will come to an end, as we all do. And that's harder than I thought, honestly. I thought, hey, I worked really hard, we build, we've been blessed with plenty of resources, more than what we know what to do with it. But I never thought that this season of my life would be probably the most challenging of everything that I've gone through life. And so that's kind of where we are at. It's our daily conversations.
Yeah. And that's what I love about you two, and the conversations and the relationships that we've built, the relationship that we built over the last 2 years. It seems like we've known each other longer than that. Um, but just the real that you have bring to your businesses, your organizations, the people that you have, and then of course together, continuing to grow together and evolve. In our last conversation with Jim and Kelly, what we came out of is the underlying theme to our relationships and to what we've built is evolution and growth. And you just continue to grow through these things, and it's you have these challenges that pop up, whether it's personal, whether it's business, whether it's any of that, and it requires conversation, communication, discussion, and evolution. And it sounds like you guys are definitely in the midst of that.
We are absolutely in the thick of it. But that also makes it exciting.
Hmm.
And for me, my life it probably has been in 4 parts, and I think there's a fifth component to it. I'm trying to figure out what that is. Maybe today's conversation will help me get a little closer to that. It'll bring some clarity. But the first phase for me as an immigrant was the first 15 years of my life just growing up in Iran. Just a normal kid, in a very modest environment. Dad worked, fed 7 people. He was an entrepreneur, didn't really have steady income. So that was my life. Mom worked
Hmm.
really hard. I have no idea how she fed 7 people, 8 actually,
Yeah.
because there's six of us plus parents. And but honestly, I never knew that we were poor because they
Mm.
never allowed us to think that way. But today I know that we were kind of sort of at a poverty level, if you will.
Hmm.
But I was just a normal kid, just grew up, and in fact, in 2000, I went back to Iran to visit where I grew up, and the house was still there. And I
Wow.
was shocked how small the house was. I would say it's probably like a 1,200 square foot house, 3 stories stacked up, and 8 of us lived in that house.
Yeah.
But it seemed like a happy environment. That's all I knew. So that was phase one. And phase two was when I left Iran, went to Germany for a short period of time, and then moved to England. Then I grew up in England. So that was kind of the second phase of my life. Then moved to the US. So I've spent most of my life in the US. And that was the grind time. It
Yeah.
was grueling work, just from ground up, boots on the ground, falling, getting up, falling, getting up, and to a point that you just feel like, my God, is there gonna be an end to this? And obviously we'll talk more about it. And now it's the phase that I'm in now.
Hmm.
And obviously, we got married, 23 years now, Claudia. We just celebrated our 23rd anniversary, and raising kids.
Congratulations.
And now it's okay, great. We got all this. Now what the heck do we do with it?
Hmm.
We took a trip to DC. We were there for the NAR conference. And then I said, let's do something different, rent a car and go through the countryside and check out Lancaster County.
Hmm.
And so out of that experience, that sparked a lot of conversations because, it's the Amish countryside
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
the Amish live. And so I started going down a rabbit hole, just learning about how they live, right? Because we were interacting, we were stopping and at their bakeries and shops and driving through the neighborhoods, and just having that discussion of, wow, they are so living in the moment. They are present. They are connected.
Hmm.
They are, disconnected from all electronics and just present in their lives. How cool would that be? We start talking about maybe we should do like a week getaway with our kids and live with an Amish family with no electronics, no internet,
Yeah.
no TV, and see what that would be like. But that just sparked conversation further of the season, going back to your question,
Yeah.
where we're at and where do we want to be? What do we want to spend our next couple of years? What's important? So
Hmm.
it's a perfect segue into that conversation, going through that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think about during COVID when, we went and we took the kids out. Well, after a while, we just got tired of being stuck in the house. And we said, all right, forget this. We're out of here. We're just going to drive. And we went to Utah and we hit so many places that you were just so remote that you didn't have any internet.
Yeah.
And what did you find? Peace, quiet, presence, I think most importantly. I think especially for us, that's something that we've been talking about because we have been on the go, 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 go. We had our first kid at 21 and we've been running ever since. And we have those moments where it seems overwhelming and everything seems to be moving so fast. I mean, we're just saying, man, it's already July. Like, how is it July, in a week when we just was New Year's not too long ago? But it does. Time seems to be going faster. And I think it's because we're so preoccupied and we're so distracted that, when we're present and you're in the moment, the time goes by a lot slower. And you really do appreciate, the time that you're able to spend with family and the kids, and you're able to, just really just set in there, because this life, this society that we live in, it's just so quick and it's so fast, and you always get to the next thing and the next thing and next thing and next thing you're turning around and our 10-year-old is almost her height. They're over here looking at her like, oh, I almost got you. And man, but you want to hold on to it.
Yeah. I think there's a craving. I think as I talk to more and more people, we are having conversations like this around, we don't want the hustle lifestyle anymore. We want the peace and quiet and spending time with family and loved ones and really being present, like to your point. And I was just telling him a week ago, I was listening to a podcast and, this person encouraged you to just like for a weekend, go somewhere, no TV, no screens, just books, journals, board games, and, the people that you love, and just hang out and remove yourself from all of, all of the screens and tech and all of that. And I think more and more people are craving that. I think that that's why, you guys probably passed through that. And that's such a rare thing nowadays where you're not connected. You're not, in front of something, hurrying, rushing to get from one thing to the next and have a meeting or this or whatever. And so it's nice to slow down and take that time.
And you think about how much time is missed. The other day we had dinner and it was us two and the boys. And there was a couple with their 4 kids sitting right next to us, and they're all like 4 under 5. And so we're eating, and I see them sit down, and I'm expecting it to be super loud. And after a while, I'm like, man, they're so quiet. And I turn and look, and they're all with their heads down in their phones or in their tablets, and they're eating their food. And and I'm sitting there like, man, what a shame. Like in the blink of an eye, and then Pops was obviously tired. Mom was obviously tired, right? They running through life. They're working, they're feeding them. But what a shame, because in the blink of an eye, they're going to be 21 and 19, like our daughters, who were begging to come home and hang out with us. And then as soon as they're home hanging out with us, we're like, all right, you guys can go back to where you need to be. But I think to your point, Max, you look back with fondness of the fullness of life that you had as a kid versus what you lacked, right? And I think we, as long as we have enough food, as long as we have the love that surrounds us, then we feel fulfilled. And that's, I was listening to something the other day too that talks about abundance, and abundance isn't about having enough money. Abundance is about having enough time, about having enough family, about having enough relationships that you can have these type of conversations with. And I think that's why we've always been so connected to each other, even in passing.
Yeah. In fact, I have a quick story that I share. My kids have heard it so many times, but it really is kind of describe my life and why I do things the way I do today, because I am often chastised. Why don't I do more? Why don't I live a bigger life? Because I can, but that's not my desire. And the only way I can explain it is, let me explain it to you this way. When I was a kid, we would get one pair of shoe a year, usually around the new year. You get one pair of shoes, and you treasure that pair of shoe because it has to last you for the entire year. And I'd never
Yeah.
forget this, that I would take some tape, and I would tape the bottom of the shoe very neatly, and I would walk very, very slowly because I didn't want the shoes to get dirty. And Claudia can attest to this. To this day, some of those moments, or maybe those sense of appreciation to do a lot with very little, still with me.
Oh yeah.
And quite frankly, sometimes they drive me nuts, and I wish I could just be more fluid and just go out there and and be consumed by
Mhm.
by things that often consume us. But fortunately, I can. And I think those are kind of the values that were, I think, instilled in us. I have a couple of more pairs of shoes, but I still take very good care of them.
Yeah.
And people, tell me, "Oh my God, you must have so many shoes." I said, "No, I don't. I actually have very few, but your shoes always look so clean." I said, "Because I take good care of them." So again, I think it's just a way for me to share with you how the values that we kind of sort of take in as a child stay with us throughout our adulthood. And here I am years later, and I still try to live my life by those values, not be consumed by so much. But then again, it's finding that balance.
Yeah.
The
Everything
other
is.
side of it that Claudia says, "Well, then why did you work so hard your whole life? Isn't this the season of your life to be enjoying it?" And those are some of the daily conversations we have,
Mm.
trying to make some sense of it.
That is, I mean, I think that that's what comes with, experience and, raising your children, and that type of balance of, yes, you do want to live life and enjoy and do all these things, but I think it is finding a balance of appreciation, valuing the things that, you've worked hard for you, your kids, your family. And there is a balance between those two. But it's such a different world nowadays. I mean, like you were just saying, as we were younger, I was the same way with like my toys and things. I really, really took care of them. And when I had my kids, and it was like, they're just running through things, and I want this, and they're tired of that, and now they want something else, and I'm like, wait a second, but I think that also speaks to, luckily we were able to be in a position where we could offer the kids more, and we were able to provide things that maybe we couldn't do for ourselves when we were younger. And there's a little bit of like that joy of like, oh, look at what I can do now, for your
Yeah.
kids.
And more on her than
Yeah.
me, because you and me, we right here, Max. We're right here. I'm like, what are we spending this money on? We don't need to spend this money. We have enough here. We're good. And she's like, oh well, when I was a kid, I always wanted this, and I was never able to. And I'm like, yes, but so it's a compromise, right? It's a communication that has to take place, and there's their experiences. Like when she said we're going to go to Disneyland for the kid's birthday, and we're going to go all out, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's just go. All right. And to your point, I don't want to know the cost. We're
Yeah.
very fortunate and blessed to be in a position to be like that, to some extent, right? Obviously, we can't go wild, but there's a balance, and it is a hard conversation that often happens. And there's this, and I think over the 23 years, right? Or initially, I think it's harder, and then over time, the ebbs and flows and the compromise that takes place, whether you're talking about spending money, whether you're talking about how you're raising your children, whether you're talking about how you're building a business, right? I think it all is part of that dialogue and the necessary kind of evolution that you guys have as a couple and as partners in this world.
Yeah, for me is I always knew what having a successful relationship ought to look like, because I had parents that were married for, gosh, before my father passed away. I think they celebrated the 55 years. So I had great role models.
Mm.
Um, even though public affection was something that I didn't grow up with, but that was more of a cultural thing.
Oh yeah.
And that was Claudio's complaint from the beginning. I know you love me, but why can't you show it more? Not to explain to public affection wasn't, how our parents were. But
That's why every time we're out, I'm like, show me some PA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I tell her, and I told her, yeah, it's what is it, Claudia? Instead of public affection, it's private affection. So, anyways, but so I knew what a successful marriage looked like, or at least how it should look like. But then I also knew that I had to work hard, and I had to have a career, and what a successful career would look like. What I did not know is how they look together in the same place.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably, Claudia, I mean, I think you agree that that's one of the questions that we get asked most often when we interact people. Yeah, great. You built a successful business. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we've been married for 23 years and we still love each other. We still have fun. And we still rather spend our every, living minute together. Okay, but what does it look like when you take these two amazing gifts and then you mush them together? And that's really the question we get asked most often. How do you guys do this? How does it work? What is a typical day in our household?
Yeah.
And
we get that a lot we get comments of, how do you guys do it? I could never work with my spouse.
Yeah.
All the time.
We get that too.
Yeah.
I was asking her today. I was like, "Are you sure you're ready for us to be so close together again?" Because we built businesses, but we've been building businesses apart, and now it's like we're right here. Like I moved my desk right next to hers because we got to go in real time. But it is something that you've got to learn to navigate, and it's not something that is immediately available. And you're able to do it. And so, Claudia, what are some of the things that you guys do to help keep things moving and have the conversations? And what are some of the practices that make you guys successful?
Gosh, I would say one thing that we do very well is we talk about everything. Like nothing festers, especially with, my personality. I would say both of us are very vocal. There's not usually, you have a couple, one of them is more subdue and reserve, right? That keeps things internal, and one's external. But I think we both are very much external and expressive as far as, what's on our mind. So that's good and bad, right? One, it's great if it's done in a peaceful manner, right? and then sometimes it's explosions and fireworks. But we do communicate a lot about everything. And, it's just picking and choosing. Sometimes we're in the office and we're having a board meeting or something, and we'll go back and forth on disagreeing on something. And, in my mind, I'm thinking, wait till we get home, I'm just gonna bite my tongue right now. No, but then we talk it through and everything's fine, or I forget by the time we get home. But there's disagreements, right, in how we go about running our businesses. But one thing we do very well is we communicate so much, if not probably more than,
I think we've had to learn to over communicate.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
To compensate for the fact that we got the double whammy, right? On the one hand, how do you stay true to being in a healthy relationship, but then how do you compete in a business world which is competitive?
Mm-hmm.
So I think for us, we've had to kind of add some additional dosage. Now, for me, it's been learning how to forgive. I think I call it the art of forgiveness, because it's an art.
Mm.
And I think for me a little harder than for Claudia, because we're as a guy you tend to be more ego sets in and all those things. But I would say, in addition to communication, I think if there was one thing that I would really highlight that really saved our marriage, kept us on the right track, is we had to learn to forgive each other. sometimes multiple times throughout the day.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a ever-ending thing. But it's a for us it was something that we chose to do. Claudia and I at the beginning of our marriage, we both had separate careers. She wanted to be a FBI agent and go out there and solve, crime, and I always wanted to be an entrepreneur and build an enterprise and, do the things that I always wanted to do as a kid. I was, in an executive role, and we would come home and she would say, well, tell me about your day. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was about my day. And she used to get really mad at me. And she said, why are you so short? Give me the full day. Yeah. And it got to a point I said, you know what? Instead of us going separate ways and coming home and have to tell each other how good or how bad our day was, why don't we just share the same experience?
Mm.
And I think that was kind of the nexus behind why we decided to do this, so that we both experienced the same thing together at the same time. Because I felt like I was missing a part of her life and she was missing a part of my life. And the solution to that for us was, whether it was a bad idea or a good idea, here we are almost 15 years, Claudia, we've been working together.
Yeah.
I think almost 15 years.
Wow.
For me, it was the best thing that I could have ever done.
And for you too, is that the same for you too, Claudia?
Oh, absolutely. And we'll give you a little bit of, how we came to be, right? Because
Yeah.
I was, like Max said, I was, first when we met. So I'll take us back a little bit, just
yeah.
to bring us to this. So I applied I wanted to be a detective. That was my goal. Studied, criminal justice. That's the path that I wanted to be. Wanted to become a detective. And I applied for a job while I was going through the academy. I was going to apply to the academy, but first I had to get fit and make sure that I could pass the physical. So a job came up, and I applied for it. I walked in, and it was a panel interview, and Max was part of the panel. He was, I think, the executive director or something of that company. So I got hired. He was my boss for how many years did we work together in that?
Almost 2.5, 3 years, I think.
Yeah, 2.5, 3 years. So
Wow.
there's some soap opera there of dating.
Little novella action.
Novella. Some novella action there. But we were friends, co-workers first, and then that led to some friendship. And X was always very respectful and proper, of course, being grown up in England. He's an English gentleman. And one thing led to another. I gave my notice that I was going to join the academy. I finally got accepted in, passed the background. And that's when, he said, now that you're going to be leaving, I can properly ask you on a proper date. And so that's kind of how the journey began.
Nice.
And I was a law enforcement officer for about 3.5 years. And we got married while I was a law enforcement officer, while I was a deputy sheriff. That's when we got married, after dating a while. And like he said, he had his own profession, and I was a law enforcement officer. Completely different, right? He's in business suits, driving his BMW, and I was, racing Mustangs before, and martial arts, and the deputy sheriff carrying a gun. So complete different.
And I had never ever seen a gun in my life until I met her.
Oh, wow.
Never seen a gun in my life. Never seen one. Never touched one. Yeah.
Little culture shock there, huh?
A little culture shock. There you go. Opposites attract. And Max said, you should get your real estate license so that we could, start investing in some properties, maybe doing some flips. And so I did. I said, okay, that sounds interesting. Got my real estate license. And that's kind of how that journey began. So I really got into real estate first before Max. And but he had I'll let him talk about kind of his career move to how he came into my world of real estate, and then how we came together to start, working together and building something.
Yeah, so my world looks very different than Claudia. My world looked like boardroom, investors, ROI and all that stuff. So, I think I'm one of probably very few lucky people that I think I've had some of the best jobs ever any human being could absolutely ask for. I've had two or three of them. But at the time, the organization that Claudia was talking about, I was there for maybe a year or two after her, and then I got recruited by the Jacob Foundation, where I stayed for about almost 11 or 12 years, and that was the last corporate job that I had. And that's where I worked with a team of people that we were kind of doing some massive redevelopment work in San Diego, and but the world I was in was how I got into the real estate. We wanted to redevelop almost like a 60-acre contiguous area in Southeast San Diego that hadn't seen, investment in years. And right outside of downtown San Diego to the north side. So basically my job was, they gave me $100 million budget, and they gave me a list of parcel acreage, as we used to call it, almost over 700 parcels of mixture of property, from abandoned commercial properties to slumlords to, just a mixed bag of really bad properties, I used to call them. And my job was to go
opportunities. Opportunities, we call them.
Exactly. And my job was to go acquire kind of land banking. That was kind of the terminology we used to use, because we needed to control the 60 acres. So I had to go buy it parcel by parcel. None of these properties were up for sale because nobody wanted to buy them. A lot of kind of landfill issues, and so I would go track these people down. Most of them were absentee owners. Nobody knew who, were all in hiding, and often they would tell me, "Hey, are you with IRS? Are you like, I mean, there was a lot of fear. So, and I would go in there and I would pay them ridiculous amounts of money. But we needed to kind of acquire all that land. So that's how I kind of got into the real estate. I didn't have a license. We had an attorney who was a broker, but my job was to go knock on doors, negotiate, and just get our hands on these properties. And most often we would tear them down, kind of clear the way for redevelopment. And at times we had to manage them for a period of time. So I came across some situations that were just heartfelt. These, mostly immigrant families that were just living out of fear. 10 people living in a one-bedroom apartment, dealing with the slumlord, and they were fearful for their life, and they would never complain. So, anyways, I had to go in there, do a lot of, relocation and all kinds of stuff. So that's how I got into the real estate, specifically on the commercial side. Then, of course, I got into the redevelopment side of it. We started building and redeveloping. So I was in that job for 12 years while Claudia had obtained her real estate license, and she liked it. And as often she would say, she'd say, "Oh my God, in 1 month, I would earn as much as I would as a year in 1 year, law enforcement officer." It was a quick mathematical calculation.
And I didn't have to work graveyard shifts anymore. I didn't have to tackle people down anymore. Risk my life. So it was an easy transition for me.
You just had to hang up the gun.
I know.
And I had just turned 50, and I had been at the job for quite some time. And we had done well, we had built the portfolio and so on and so forth. So I decided I was going to be that guy that was going to take an early retirement. And so I did. And so I kind of retired from corporate America. And Claudia said, "Well, why are you trying to figure out what you're going to do? Because I know you're going to get bored. Why don't you just come and help me a little bit?" And she had just, acquired the REO account. And she was working crazy hours like most realtors, and, really didn't have a life. So she gave me a desk. Literally, it was like a 3x2 desk in a small office that she had at a company that she worked at the time, facing the wall. And she said, that's all I got, go to work. And literally within 30 days, we created systems and processes and I think at the time, I don't know, Claudia, she was coding 200, 300, 400 transactions a year. It was insane. And she started going home at 5 o'clock, and she goes, "Oh my God, this is so good! I had no idea you could do this. But why don't you just come work with me?" And I said, "Okay, well, I guess I can." I mean, I
Yeah.
wasn't planning on. And then shortly after, we were offered a franchise, a real estate franchise, because our name got out that, hey, there's a couple that are doing this and that. So that was kind of my entryway into the real estate arena. It wasn't by choice, it wasn't by design. But being the kind of person that I am, I seek opportunities, and sometimes opportunities seek me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This time we were seeked out, and it all kind of took off from there. And we've been at it now for, I think it was 15 years ago exactly when
Wow.
I got that call. Yeah.
Max has some crazy ideas of what he wanted to do. I remember that time. I mean, we almost bought a club. We almost bought a Spanish restaurant. We were just he's an entrepreneur, right? So he was
Yeah.
after every opportunity and these crazy ideas of owning different businesses. Thank goodness we didn't go down that route.
Mhm.
There was a
There's still time, Max. There's still time.
No, but to put this in some real context, and she's not kidding. We actually found it was a club. Claudia, where were they from? From not Puerto Rico.
it was Dominican Republic, I think.
I think so.
Yes.
So there were two couples that were partners, and they owned this club in San Diego, and they wanted to sell it. So I said, hey, I'm going to buy it. So we actually went on the contract, and I said, well, can you guys send me your financials so I can review it? They said, we don't have financials.
I got cash. I have cash in
Yeah,
my mattress.
exactly.
That's what I got for
And
you.
they said, if you want to see how this business functions, why don't you come here on a Friday night at 11 o'clock, and you guys, we'll give you behind the scenes tour. And Claudia said, well, I know where this place is. You're not going there on your own. I'm going with you. I said, okay, great, let's go. So we go there and we walk
Had never been into this place. I just
Oh, I-
knew that it attracted a large crowd.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And not exactly the kind of crowd that we fit in. So we walk in, and I immediately thought to myself, my God, what have I done? We do not belong here. But we were there anyway. So the guy said, well, come behind the bar. So, and I saw how they were operating. It literally was a cash cow.
Yeah.
And I think we were there for an hour, and then we walked away. We said, no.
There's
This is not too
other
far.
places to spend our time.
So
Yes.
I
just
got
didn't align
that.
with it didn't align with our
No.
values and just what we
Yeah.
wanted our kids to know that we were a part of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I have had some crazy
Right.
ideas, and by the way, just to be clear, I know we're talking about success and all that sounds good, but to be transparent, my life hasn't always been full of successes.
Yeah.
There have definitely been some failures along the way, financial failures, business failures, relationship failures, and I think that's just what made us who we are. And it has, yeah, and it hasn't. And I know those are things that most people are not comfortable talking about, but
It's part
I
of the
think
journey.
Yes.
I think part of what makes us who we are is we do talk about those things.
Mhm.
Mhm.
The way for us to stay grounded,
Yep.
because we too are human beings. We're driven by temptation, by greed, and everything else. We're not superpowers. We're regular human beings.
Yep.
Talk
We
about-
just
and I'm just sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but we were two different cultures,
Yeah.
age gap. I had a daughter. Max had a son. So when we got together, children from prior relationships,
Yeah.
It's layers.
huge difference, different culture, so many different factors, in coming together. So to Max's point, it hasn't been easy. When you bring two different families and two different cultures, and on top of that, the age difference, and just we're always in two different seasons
Yeah.
of our life. That definitely a lot of challenges that we had to
Yeah,
overcome.
so we've had to learn to be, to be nimble and to expect the unexpected. Um, we've always had to work much harder than our counterpart, but that was by choice, by design, because we knew what we wanted. We knew that we wanted to break out of the cycle of poverty. And we knew that nothing is given, everything is earned. As an immigrant, obviously, I don't have that sense of entitlement or no. I came to America knowing that I wasn't entitled to anything.
Yeah.
The fact that they let me in, to me, was the dream. All I wanted was just an opportunity, just for somebody to give me a shot.
Mm.
But I was fortunate enough that a few people gave me a shot. But I knew that I had to make something out of it. Just like when I asked Claudia to marry me, she said yes. I knew she gave me a shot. Then I had to, make it work, because the odds were against us. I'll be honest with you. I
Mhm.
mean, mathematically, our marriage should not have worked. Our business enterprises should not have worked, because we were going against all odds.
Mhm.
Cultural differences, age differences. At the time, I had just about sorted out my immigration paperwork. I mean, I went through I went from being in deportation proceedings for 12 years due to no fault of my own, because my attorney at the time, failed to submit the paperwork in a timely manner, and an immigration judge decided he was going to make an example out of me.
Wow.
Wow.
And they put me in deportation proceedings while I was building my life and living my life. And I completely, not that I ignored it, but I knew that I had to go build, that was not going to stop me. And that lasted 12 years. And I fought the judicial system for 12 years. And I took my case all the way up to the Ninth Circuit, to the Department of Justice. And a
Yeah.
judge at that level, after 12 years, heard my case and said, no, you ought to be granted permanent residency. And he sent my file back to San Diego. And I went in front of the same judge after 12 years. Of course, I was a different person. I was an executive. I was in a suit and tie.
Yeah.
I had a personal entryway into the congressman's office, because I didn't stop building.
Mm.
I didn't allow my immigration status prevent me from what I wanted to do. And I did. And what prompted me or allowed me to go through that process was because I was given one of the highest honors. I think it was the Department of, not the Department of Justice. I think it's a subset of the Department of Justice. But anyways, it's some designation that I think there's like 500 of them that the U.S. government gives out. And it's usually given to a scientist, someone who does something of, significant value. And, I created a microloan program for immigrant entrepreneurs, people that come to this country, they want to start a business, they get redlined, nobody wants to lend them money. So I raised the money, created a microloan program, and, it kind of, the word got out, and they looked at it, they said, well, wait a minute, you are the kind of guy that we need in this country.
Yeah.
This is what America is all about. And that was the nexus, or the reason why I was given that designation. And that designation took me from deportation, literally from a deportation status, to becoming a permanent resident. And quickly after, I became a U.S. citizen.
Wow. Yeah.
So these are the types of experiences that build you, shape you, kick you in the face at times. But that's been our journey.
Yeah, I
And
mean, you said something earlier that really resonated is I fell down, I got back up. I fell down, I got back up. I fell down, I got back up. And I think the biggest part of that is you got back up, right?
yeah,
And that I mean that kudos to you and for sure much respect, man. I didn't know that story about you. And it's funny as we were talking earlier ahead of this. It's like, we don't even know how they met. And so, we're going through the evolution of it, man, and that's an amazing story, especially nowadays with everything
yeah.
that's happening. So yeah, man, I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, so my appreciation for America, I think it's a little different than most people.
Mm,
For
And
sure.
even though America hasn't been easy, um, I was thrown a lot of curveball, but at the end of the day, it was up to me to figure out because all I wanted was a shot.
yeah.
And
Well, and that and
when
that resonates, and when we sit in your office in San Diego and the culture that you guys have both built there, you feel that through the walls, and I think it is something that is sent is it's felt while when we're there, and when you feel it with the people that you touch and the people that work with you, whether it's your title company or your mortgage company or Realty of America. I mean, it's everyone that's connected to you to have that tie and that you have that feeling of hope and of motivation to be more than where you're at today, and it resonates with even through this conversation.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, for me, it's not what we do, it's how we do it that matters at the end.
Hmm.
And I think those are some of the conversations that Claudia and I are having is, great, we did all this stuff, we pulled through it, but now what?
Yeah.
What's the next chapter? Where do we go from here? And for us, at times it's different because we are in two different seasons of our lives. Um, most people want to. I'm at a point in my life where I want to give back as much as I can, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that responsibly.
Mm.
Because I think one thing that I noticed when our kids were younger, we wanted to give them so much. And I always ask myself, why do I feel, why do I always have this sense of, my God, I got to do more? And I think I realized that I was overcompensating for what I didn't have myself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not that our kids weren't getting enough. They
Yeah.
had more than what they needed, but I think it was me trying to overcompensate. So I've had to learn to move away from that and be okay. Be
Yeah.
okay
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
what
one of the
we
things one of the things I've noticed is, we do that when we're not giving time and effort and presence, right?
yeah.
And so, we're willing to say, okay, yeah, we'll give you this because, we're over here focused on building next business, or we're focused on going practice, taking the bar exam, or, those things. And so it's easy to compensate with, let me give you what you want, or let me give you something that I may not have had. But what I found is that those experiences that we've been able to give them, taking them to different countries or taking them to different places, and then being present with them has always been the most fulfilling. In retrospect, no matter what the cost was monetarily, is always something they allow. You know what? I would do that 10 times over again because it's a core memory that sticks with both them and us. And it's those types of things that you have to foster.
Absolutely. The creating those memories and experiences, that's one thing that I'm constantly reminding, and talking about is we got to create these memories. I know it's hard to step away,
Yeah.
right? And as it's funny, we have those conversations as much as Max says, I want to slow down. And then I book a 4-day weekend and he's like freaking out. Oh my gosh, we're gonna miss one day at the office. I said, wait, we're talking about slowing down and you can't pull away for 2 days, but it's important. And so we are having we gotta be present more. And our kids, you talk about how fast the kids grow up. I mean, we're empty nesters. I can't believe our 3 kids are grown. Our youngest, that we have together, she's gonna be 21 this year.
Yeah.
That's just crazy
Mind blowing.
thinking of that, right? And thinking that, wow, grandkids hopefully we're gonna have soon. That's a whole other season. And so it's we going back to the conversation of being present and taking the time to have those experiences, especially since our kids are gonna, we talk about this, our kids are gonna have spouses and they're gonna start families of their own.
Mm-hmm.
That time that they're gonna give us is
Less and less.
closing. It's gonna be less and less. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's important.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy, right? Because we're fortunate enough that we have older kids and we kind of learns through that experience. And now with our boys, we are, when, and I know you resonate with this as well. Like we had kids really young. And so it was just like, go, 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 run, trying to survive. Like we got to feed the kids. We got to do these things. And so, fortunately, we have these two younger kids that we get to kind of pour into in a way that we couldn't or, didn't know how to with the girls. And so, I mean, a part of you sometimes it's like, man, I feel really bad because now as I see, what we're able to do and how we pour into our boys, I wish I would have known better to do that with the girls. But and they always say all the time, this is not my mom. That's not my dad. That's not how we were raised. And, obviously we aren't the same people that we were at 20. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God for that. But it is nice to be able to kind of cherish the boys a little bit more, and have that just awareness that, it goes by fast. So, holding on to them as much as possible. And so, yeah, it is crazy the how fast the time goes. And I am very appreciative that the girls do want to come home still. They do want to spend time, maybe not as much as we would like them, but we appreciate the time that they're there and we're all together as a family of 6.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an interesting phase having those two out of the house and having the boys at home. And I'm sure, with you guys being empty nesters, it's just like, man, I'm sure it felt like that phase is going to be forever. And now it's here. And it's like, man, that's wild that you're already there.
One of the things that we've had to learn, because when I was younger, we would hear about work-life balance, all those things. I read books and went to some seminars, but in reality, honestly, I think we're of a mindset. There's no such thing as a work-life balance.
Yeah.
I agree.
Our work is our work, and our life is our life, and they're both together makes us who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we stopped because for a while we were kind of struggling with, oh my God, we're not spending enough time at home. We're feeling guilty, and it just wasn't a good feeling.
Yeah.
And it felt like, okay, we're penalizing, we're getting mad at ourselves for being successful because we're not spending enough time because we were trying to separate them.
Yeah.
And I think when we stopped, I think it was Adriana and Claudia a few years ago, I think you kind of came up with this and you said, you know what, I don't believe in this work-life balance. This is what we chose to do. Our success is our life and our life is our success. Our kids are a part of it, our family, our extended family, our community, and we got to embrace all of it.
Yeah.
So that we started departmentalizing it. It kind of sort of, I don't know, it felt like I was feeling guilty that, oh my God, but I worked so hard to be successful, but now I'm feeling guilty. And so Claudia said, you know what, we're going the wrong way about it. We need to rethink the way we think of ourselves. And we said, no, there's no work-life balance. There are days that we're required to be here because we built a community. This community relies on us. We're responsible for it. And we take that responsibility seriously. But there are also times where we can just step away. We were gone for a whole week last week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a blessing that we have.
Yeah.
So we kind of stopped differentiating it or, creating friction. We said, no, it's who we are.
Yeah.
There are days that we'll be going early, the days that we don't have to go in. And so that was a great lesson for us.
Yeah.
And I shared with as many people as I can. because it was creating a level of anxiety and stress for us.
Yeah.
And I think what also happens, and I say that all the time, is that we live and work at the same time. There's no on hours or off hours. And I think what also happens with that is when I meet people who are living 9 to 5s and then they're at home and they're doing that, they're also waiting to live until they retire, or they're waiting for something to happen down the line before they start really enjoying their life, and they're always looking forward. And so back to being present, it's like, I mean, this is the conversation. This is the job. This is the life that we're having right now. And this is the only thing that really matters. What happens after this will be what matters immediately, because really that's all we have in our lives. And it is, but it is a learned trait. It's not easy because you're always thinking either ahead or you're always thinking about behind us, and everything everywhere all at once. That's just the life that we live. And as entrepreneurs, as successful business people, as CEOs, COOs of our own companies, it is part of the life that we've chosen, and it's a blessing. And it's a blessing. I mean, that's part of what we get to do, and we take those responsibilities that come with that, from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Claudia, can you share with them something you did with our calendar a few years ago with regards setting our calendar for the following year? Because that's something that you did, and again, it for me was a game changer. How you kind of do that?
Yeah, how we make time like for outside of work. I mean, one thing I remember when we got married, one thing that I did tell him, I said, look, I don't care where car we drive, what house we live in, if it's a condo or a house, whatever size. But one thing I want you to know that's very important to me is that I want you to take me traveling, because I never got to travel. I never got to see, outside of US and Mexico. That was pretty much to the extent.
Yeah.
Mexico was just, Baja, wherever we could drive to. So,
Mhm.
I grew up with very little means. And so I wanted to see the world. I had this passion for seeing the world and taking our kids. So one thing that we do every year before, we put anything else on our calendar, right around the end of the year, is we take a look at the calendar and say, okay, let's block off the times that we're going to be away. Or we're going to take the time, whether it's with our kids, whether it's to go visit family, in another state, whether it's travel, but let's block that off first. And then everything else is going to have to work around those dates.
Yep.
Because if you don't plan it and make time and make that a priority, then life is just going to go by. Before you know it, it's July, and you're like, oh gosh, have we taken that time? And that's important to us, is to take time to travel. It's always been a part of, our priorities, our top priorities.
Oh, no, I was just going to say along the same lines of, work-life balance. I also don't think that it's 50-50 either. I mean, I think that there are seasons where it's, 90-10 or, 80-20 or 60-40 or whatever that looks like, because just like it's hard to say work is going to live in these, specific times, it's hard to, know what to expect with like what's going on career wise, what's going on with personal, ambitions or things that are happening in our lives or our kids' lives or, whatever season we're in. And so I think that's another thing that we kind of let go as well, is this expectation of it has to be even, you have
Yeah.
to have exactly the same as me.
Yeah.
And, we've gone back and forth with, hey, I'm going to pick it up this season because I know you're busy building or going to school or doing whatever it is that you have going on, and I'll pick it up. And then it's gone vice versa, right? And so being able, and I think that goes back to the initial conversation that you guys were talking about right when we started, is that communication factor, right? As long as you're communicating and you understand kind of what is happening in each other's worlds, then you can say, hey, I've got this. Like, let me take this. You go focus on that. And I'll take the kids, or I'll, pick up this piece of the business or whatever it is that, the house or whatever it is that you guys are, or we're shuffling, right? And trying to figure out what to do. And I think that, I think that comes with like that, that experience of failing and, having rough patches or, things don't work out the way that you're expecting. And
letting that resentment build up and not saying anything until it's built up and then it explodes and you're like, all right, I probably could have said that differently, but it's been on my mind for 5 months and I haven't said it yet.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And
Max will know the minute within 5 minutes at most.
Those are the two things I learned being married to Claudia. Number one was I learned public affection and being affectionate, because I grew up in a culture that, affection wasn't displayed publicly. And that was something that I had to learn. And she made it very clear. And so that was number one. And now I drive her crazy. She goes, okay, enough already. And I said, well, hold on. At the beginning, you wanted me to say it. And then number two was communication, because I wasn't good at communicating, because I wasn't taught earlier on the importance of it. So that's something that at the very, very beginning of our relationship, I think she says, hey, listen, these are the two pillars that will further improve and develop, and that's how our marriage will flourish. So those have been really two very critical things that I had to learn, because I had the work ethic. I never lacked that. But those were the two areas that really were I feel she brought into our life, and it was a commitment. And to this day, we talk, sometimes to a fault, but there is nothing, and I've made a point of that I will absolutely not make any decision, small or large, until the two of us will discuss it, and that I feel that she's okay with the decision. Now, fortunately, she's trusted me over the years, allowing me to make big decisions, but that is not to say that I will not share it with her. So again, it's a responsibility that I've had to take. And then lastly, I've learned to be, Claudia said, being present, but I've also learned to be intentional and purposeful in everything that I do. And that maybe comes from the sense of, I don't feel that I'm entitled, and my work ethic. So to this day, no matter how small or large a task is, I am very intentional, very detailed about what I do, because my work speaks about who I am. And we incorporate that into how we build our companies, how we build the community around us. It's how we parent. It's how we take care of people around us. And because I think at the end, that's, we're not judged by how much we acquire. I think we're ultimately judged by how we build people up around us.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the new season that I'm in. How do I build as many people as I can up around me? And I think that's ultimately kind of our legacy,
Yeah.
Because material things, they're quickly forgotten, right?
Yeah.
But I think what
And you
stays
can't take them
behind-
with you.
Yeah, and it's the reputation that we have in the business community.
Yeah.
Never cross the line, never cross those bridges. Always be true to the relationship. So that's something else that we pride ourselves of. It may not be important to other people, it's important to us. It's our reputation in our community, in our family, in our immediate community, in the business community, and people that we serve. So those are kind of sort of the pillars, the 3 or 4 pillars by which I kind of hold myself accountable.
Man, well, I know we're running up on time, and I greatly appreciate, I know how busy you two are, so appreciate the conversation and the time that we've been able to spend. And I really look forward to next month where we're able to be in person and share a meal and brainstorm on all the other things going on. But want to wrap this up?
Yeah. I have just a couple quick lightning round questions. Just first thing that pops into your head. And then we can wrap it up from there. But who said I love you first?
Oh, gosh. That's a good question.
Who can recall?
You know what? I can tell you this. I made the first move. I made the first move because
did.
he was such a gentleman that I would even stay over at his house and he would say, "You can sleep in my bedroom, I'll sleep on the couch." And it happened so many times that I was like, what is this? Come on, make a move, dude. Okay, I'm gonna make a move. And so I did. So I remember that. Who made the first kiss and first move? But the love you part, I don't know. I don't know if I remember that.
That counts.
Yeah.
That definitely counts.
Okay, there we go. We'll just leave it at that.
Night owl or morning person?
Oh, I'm definitely a night owl.
Morning person.
Morning person.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Who is the most detailed, or who is going to be planning your days or vacations? Who's the planner?
Well,
100% Claudia.
I would say I plan definitely vacations. He plays no part in that. However, he's the more detailed person when it comes to planning and finances and business.
Okay.
More detailed in that. But when it comes to fun time or planning anything, parties, get-togethers, vacations, that's definitely me. Or else, if it was for up to Max, he'd be ordering pizza and we'd be eating,
I'm a simple guy.
Costco pizza for any
I'll
get-togethers.
take it.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Both, but coffee. I do coffee morning and tea in the evening.
There you
Fun.
go.
And what do you guys think is next? What is what's the next? Where do you think you'll be in the next couple years?
We talk often on some crazy ideas. Always on what should we do? We should maybe purchase a bed and breakfast and move somewhere and live in the bed and breakfast and do a restaurant. And we have those crazy ideas, right? Once where we're like, let's just get away from real estate, do nothing about real estate and do something completely different. Like we have those moments, right? Where we're like, that's it. We're ready to throw in the towel and just get in the car, pack up and start a life somewhere else, running or, a better B&B somewhere remotely. Right. We have those crazy ideas. And funny enough, Max is like, you should book us some tickets. Let's go visit. We've been looking at hearing a lot about South Carolina. We're like, we should go just see what that lifestyle is like. Let's go see what it is. But in all seriousness, I think what's next for us is, Max really wants to, he's talking more and more on what retirement looks like.
Yeah.
And then I'm going internal and deep saying, well, where does that leave me? Right. Because we've built this business together and been side by side business partners for 15 years. And we have so much that we've built that we can't just turn it off or sell it off. So what does that look like for me? How does my role change? Do I want to do it without him? How long do I want to do that? But then if we were to stop, what would we do next?
Yeah.
So
Bed and breakfast sounds really good.
It does.
Well, it does, right? A winery, something.
Wineries. Yep.
Yeah. I think for me is and I kind of sort of talked about it a little bit but to be more specific, I think obviously I want to slow down. And but I don't want to just slow down and do nothing. I think I want to do more charity work. I don't know what that looks like. I had at some point I had thought about, maybe we'll start our own foundation, maybe do it through that, but that's more of a structured environment. I'm kind of thinking through all that stuff, but I know one thing for sure, that my life has to amount, every day of my life has to amount to something. It can't just be, I'm just going to go through the day.
Yeah.
That's just who I am now. How I will implement that, it's to be seen. But really, one of the things that excited me to be on this conversation with you guys is because all these things actually help provide some clarity. Because when you talk through it, it really kind of makes things a little more clear. So thank you both for having us on your podcast, and And by the way, I'm so inspired by both of you. I felt to say that. We love and respect you guys, and amazing what you do. Your family, you're both professionals, and obviously we wanna get to know you more and more and learn about your journey.
Yeah.
So, what do we do that in San Diego next
For
month?
sure. For sure. Well, thank you very much. I mean, the feeling is mutual. We were saying that when we first met you guys at the hub 2 years ago, how inspired we were to see the building and the foundation that you guys built with all the companies, and then the love that you have for each other and how it resonates through the walls. We aspire to emulate that and build that here in the Bay Area as well. And I think we told you that too when we were down there. And so, that still is one of the things that is on our mind. But man, we appreciate you guys, and thank you very much for joining us. Really excited to share your story and to catch up further in the next month.
I know. Thank you
Thank you
both
for having us.
so much. We
Thank you
appreciate
for having us.